Didn't do a clip yesterday. There's just a bit going on. I've got lots of work to do, and fell asleep. Usual occurrence in my life. I fall asleep at random times and then can't sleep during the night. Today, and I know I say this every time, I'm going to try and keep it brief. So I want to talk about post, I guess, the support that you get after you've lost a baby. And it's extremely limited. So I know, I mean, just purely by coincidence, there's been a recent campaign launched. I'm pretty sure it's by Tommy's, calling for more support post losing your baby, because literally you're kind of left to get on with it. For me, I mean, obviously it's changed a lot in 10 years, but for me, 10 years ago, I was discharged from hospital after a fair, probably I think I was in there nearly a week after I'd had my near-death experience. I was still extremely unwell. It took me months to get better, for all my body to physically get better, I mean, and not just mentally. Still not quite right mentally, but hey. It took ages for me to get better physically. So I got home. Obviously when you return home, you return to a house that you had gotten ready for a newborn baby, particularly when you've lost at full term. So Nick had told me that whilst I was in hospital, that he had just put certain things in there into what was Billy's room, where the cot and everything was, and he just shut the door. It didn't, when I got home, it was probably a few days before I went in there, but I mean, Billy hadn't been there. It's not like he had, you know, been at home with us. So I guess I kind of got a little bit of, although it was extreme sadness associated with that room being ready for him, and his clothes were hung up, and, you know, everything was ready for a little boy. It was just there. I mean, we didn't have any other children. We were in a 3-bedroom house. It wasn't somewhere that I needed to go to get anything. There was nothing of mine in there, so it was probably a little while before I ventured in there, and it was probably I guess, part of my process. At some point I knew I had to do it, so I got on with it. A few days after I got home, I had a call from a bereavement midwife from the hospital, local hospital, saying we've got 2 assigned bereavement midwives at the hospital, and we're here if you need us. Okay, well, for a person like me, that's no good, because I don't think I ever need anybody, so I'm never going to actively call somebody up and say, hey, I think I need your help. I need somebody to almost force me into dealing with what I've got to deal with. So it wasn't the best approach for me, and I think I had one after that. I had one other phone call which I missed, and it was the bereavement midwife again saying, hey, just checking in to see how things are going, here if you need us. Like, no, that just wasn't working for me. The local hospital did have a bereavement group, a group for bereaved parents, and I made the decision quite early on that I was going to need some kind of help getting through what we'd been through, because I know from when I'd had my miscarriages, having reflected on it all these years later, I did not deal with them well at all. So if I didn't deal with them well, and then I had no chance. So I knew I would need a counsellor, and I'd never really had any experience of counsellors. It was all a bit hippy dippy for me. I'm not a talker generally, you know. I'm not I'm not a feeling-y kind of person. You know, if you ask me how I am, I just say, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm okay. You get this. You just get the same response from me all the time, regardless of what's going on. But I was in a place where I didn't feel that I could offload what was going on in my head to those closest to me, because quite honestly they would have been extremely worried about me and my mental health. And of course a trained person knows how to handle that situation. They're informed, they're looking for triggers, and you know, they're just better at it anyway. So quite quickly, I would say, so we lost Billy in the October, I would say maybe certainly before Christmas, December I think, was my first session with my counsellor, who basically got me through the following 12 months from that point through to when I had Florence. And she helped me to process what had gone on, and she gave me an outlet. She didn't think I was going crazy. She didn't think I was going to commit suicide, which, you know, if I'd shared some of my thoughts with people that are not trained in that area, they might have thought that was going to happen. And weirdly, she was the only person really that I could let my guard down with. Trusted her completely, and I trusted that she knew I was going to be okay. So if I needed any additional support, or I was getting into a place that was maybe a little bit dark, a little bit dangerous, I trusted her that she would know that I needed some more help. I mean, obviously we never got there, but it did help me enormously, and I don't know where I would have ended up without her. The saddest part of it is that it's not the saddest part, because the kind of money bit's irrelevant. The sad bit is we self-funded, because the waiting list for any kind of therapy on the NHS was 6 months plus, and it wasn't the right kind of therapy. So there are several different forms of therapy. So there's something called CBT, which is basically treating your coping mechanisms to deal with certain situations. So that type of approach is great for anxiety or OCD, or you know, anything like that. This is just my opinion. I am no expert, apart from the amount of money that I've spent on these things. And then there's the opposite, which is talking therapy, which is not offered as much on the NHS because it's got no defined end. Whereas CBT, you've got a start and an end. So you start where, I guess, let's say you start where you are afraid to leave the house. Let's say you've got agoraphobia, and you have CBT, and there's an end because, you know, slowly but surely that therapist will get you to a point where you can leave the house, and etc, etc. That's the type of therapy that the NHS mainly offer, because it's measurable. Completely appreciate that the other type of the talking therapy, which is the other kind, is not measurable, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, it could just be two people having a chat every other week, and that is extremely difficult to manage when you've got budgets, NHS budgets, to take care of, which are extremely stretched. So Made the decision to self-fund. It wasn't an issue for us, you know. We didn't have any children. We were in a solid financial situation. Both got good jobs, but I do get concerned for those that wouldn't have access to that so easily. I think there are a lot more charities today around and about that do support women in the situation that I was in than there were 10 years ago. But it does concern me that if I'd not been able to access that support, how that would have manifested itself, because, you know, at some point it's got to come out. So I found great help from those bi-weekly sessions that I had for 12 months, and then we'll talk about postnatal depression on another clip, because that brings with it a different kind of help. So great counsellor, loves her to pieces. You've got to be really careful with counselling that you don't develop a codependency, which is why your sessions are bi-weekly, which is why sometimes your counsellor will say, let's leave it 3 weeks and see how you go. They want to make sure you're not becoming reliant on them, they're not becoming a crutch. I didn't really have that that issue that I can remember anyway. Now, there was a bereavement group that was held at the hospital. Now, I'm not into group therapy, don't like talking about my own situation. I don't like talking to people that I don't know. I can't be bothered with them. I get frustrated with them. My circle is tiny, let's say, probably even smaller than tiny. But I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. It was like it was for the parents of who'd gone through it. So me and Nick both went together, but this was a place where we went together. We went to one session at the hospital for the bereavement parents of bereaved children, bereaved parents. Sorry, I can't get my words out today. And we both walked out and said, never going back. It was frustrating because from, you know, everybody's loss is an individual loss. And I'm not judging anyone for the emotions that they go through. But one lady that was in there, it was told not to have any more children because her uterus had thinned so much, and she still went ahead and had children. So I just don't understand the logic there. Before I was walking into the group, there were women standing outside of the place smoking, and then they came into the bereavement group. Well, we all know that smoking heightens your risk of stillbirth and all of the rest of it, complications. Frustrates, that kind of thing frustrates me. And I just don't understand it. I mean, you know what, if you want to choose to do that, that's up to you. But then, you know, when something goes wrong, I would hate to have to look at myself and think that I could have done something to prevent it, because by medical standards, I was perfect. Like, I didn't smoke, I don't drink, you know, I'm not overweight, I'm not underweight, I'm not anything, I'm just normal. So I was basically had none of the risk factors for somebody who was going to have a stillbirth or who was at risk of a stillbirth. So we walked out the bereavement group and said that we were never going back. Wasn't for us. Other people got something from it, but it wasn't for us. And then I was hunting around in the middle of the night one night and stumbled across a Mumsnet. No, Net Mums. Don't get the two mixed up. Net Mums thread that somebody had started because they had recently lost. I think the first lady to lose was a little girl, and then I'd picked up. You know, hers was like 6 months prior to me, and a few more people had joined the thread, and then I joined the thread at that point, and then a few more people joined after me, and we kind of I think there was a group of 7 or 8 of us, all going through the same thing at exactly the same time. Similar, like we'd all had our losses at a similar time. We'd all got pregnant again at a similar time. We're all due to give birth to our rainbow babies at a similar time, and we were just all so aligned and so supportive of one another. And obviously it's all, until the point, it's all virtual. So these people I'm talking to don't know me from Adam. I don't know them. All I know about them is what they're telling me when they're typing on the message board. And that was great for me because I quite liked that anonymity, like that they didn't know all about me and my life and who I was, and I didn't have to share all of that. It was purely focused on our losses and what we were going through and trying to get pregnant again and all that kind of thing. And to this day, and I know most of the others on the group would agree and will probably comment, I don't know how I would have got through it without them. That group of women, that tribe, I would say, in that first 12 months got me through. I think we all got each other through one of the most worst situations that we will ever face. And I never would have thought that I would have stumbled across it freakily in the middle of the night and it would have ended up where it was today. Jolene lives down in Brighton. She's one of my tribe. We give each other a lot of support. And then there's other, there's a lot of others. Jane, there's Vicky and Amanda and Donna and Jane. Jane was much earlier than the rest of us when she lost her little girl. Jane was the ringleader of the group. She was ahead of us all. It was just a great place for us to let go of our feelings. I think a lot of us were having counselling anyway, but it just gave us a place to go. And I think most of us at one point were posting every day, and we were like, we were almost waiting for another one. There was somebody else for us to talk to because we were going through it exactly at the same time. So if anybody's starting on their journey, I would say keep going until you find your tribe, because your tribe will get you through it. You'll get each other through it. Now, that's not to say that people that haven't experienced the loss that you have or I have will not become part of your tribe, because they absolutely will. So there's some people close to me that talk to me often, check in on me, make sure I'm okay, remember silly things, know when I'm off, know when I'm alright, and they're genuine. They're just my genuine friends, and I would class them as part of my tribe as well. They know who they are. Yeah, keep going until you find your tribe. Get counselling, or at least try counselling, and if it doesn't work for you, try something different. Try a bereavement group. SANS have local bereavement groups. So there's a charity called SANS. keep going until you find a space that you feel that you are getting something from, because I would walk out of my counselling sessions and feel lighter. I wouldn't feel better, I wouldn't feel less sad, but I would feel lighter. And even if I sat there and sobbed for an hour, my counsellor really wasn't that bothered. She was quite happy to do that. And I think it's really it is underestimated now, and it has been recognised that there isn't adequate support for people that have gone through this, because it's a life-changing moment. You've lost your baby, you've lost your future. Quite often you lose friends. People that were in your life seem to dwindle away. Some of them come back, some of them don't, and you come to accept that you have developed a new normal. You're not going to get the life back that you had before. You're not going to get the personality back that you had before. You're not going to get your approach to things that you had before, because something so significant has happened. You come to accept a new normal, as hard as it is. So that's my clip for today. The message is find your tribe. Even people who have not gone through baby loss, bringing up children is damn hard. So if you can find a tribe to help you when you need a sanity, a release of sanity, I guess, find some sanity, because sometimes this house is crazy. You need to find your tribe for that as well. So I would guess generally in life, as mums, as parents, find your tribe, trust in them, and make sure you've got people around you who you know will be there for you, whatever the weather. So that's me for today.